Jim Norton of Weston. He's been a Weston City Commissioner since 2010. He's a real estate agent and has an MBA from Florida International University. And here is Nan Rich, also of Weston. Nan Rich was a state senator, a legislator for a very long time, from the Senate from 2004 to 2012, including a term as the Senate Democratic leader, and also served in the State House from 2000 to 2004. District 1, and I appreciate you guys keeping up with the slides here. Yeah, District 1, all are part of Davie, Lauderhill, Plantation, Sunrise, Tamarack, and Weston. Did I leave any city out? One precinct in Davie. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Current commissioners.
Jim Norton, we're going to begin with you. As everybody knows, the Broward County Commission has voted to put on the November ballot a sales tax referendum in which the proceeds will be split between the cities and the county over the next 30 years. A lot of money, a lot of needs in this community. Had you been on the Broward County Commission, would you have voted for that, and why?
The answer is,
Can
you hear me? All right. For this particular tax, I do not like raising taxes, or specifically the sales tax, because I believe it is a regressive tax and generally speaking hurts the poor more than it does anyone else. However, on this particular sales tax, we know we have infrastructure needs, we know we have transportation needs, which are years and years behind, similar to the port. It's taken 18 years to bring port expansion. It's taken much longer to bring transportation needs. We've heard about the problems already. We've heard we're not getting any help from Tallahassee, so we need to take the bull by the horns. And yes, I would have voted for this. And as a matter of fact, we are educating the public now about the 2.5-cent sales taxes, because we need to improve the infrastructure in each of our cities, where half of it goes to the cities for infrastructure, half goes to the county for transportation. And yes, was a collaborative effort for probably the first time in a long time between the county commission and the cities, specifically the Broward League of Cities, to bring this initiative forward to help our residents, not just today, but in years in the future. Because if we don't start sometime, it's not going to get done, and you're going to see bigger and bigger problems. And it'll cause unintentional consequences, like unaffordable housing, like people who can't get to and from high-wage, high-paying jobs. So that's why I would have voted for it.
Okay. Nan Rich, the same question to you. Tell us why this sales tax is needed in Broward County now.
Well, I just want to first say thank you to the Port Everglades Association for hosting this today and giving us this opportunity. I have to say that I have concerns about this tax. And I disagree with my opponent in the sense that this was something that should have been thought about for a long time, and people should have been coming together to come up with the right plan. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the right plan. It is all we have, and the voters will decide whether or not they want to vote for it. But I also disagree about raising sales tax for things like this, because it is a regressive tax. And what happens here is the infrastructure needs are now going to be funded with sales tax in cities that should be funding these things, I think some of them by themselves. For instance, my opponent had talked about the infrastructure when we were at the Sun Sentinel. The infrastructure will fund 4 firehouses in Weston. Well, I think about this as a contradiction, that if you're against a regressive sales tax, why should that kind of a tax be funding something in a city that probably should be able to fund it itself? My opponent always talks about low taxes, but there are a lot of other cities that really can't afford to put these taxes on themselves. And so I have some concerns. And as I said, the voters will decide what to do. The point is that the half penny doesn't do it for the transportation. Should have been a penny if you're going to do it. And instead, the other half is going to infrastructure. And I think the infrastructure is pretty much could be a slush fund. So I do have concerns about it.
Okay. You keep the mic right there. I'm going to stay with you, Nan Rich, for my next question. Nan Rich, the question is this, a very simple one. What most distinguishes you from your opponent in this race?
I think what most distinguishes me is experience and leadership and knowledge of the issues. As you mentioned, I have served in the Florida legislature for 12 years. 4 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate, 2 of those as the first woman Democratic leader of the Senate Democrats. And I feel that I have a great deal of experience to bring here. I also have relationships with people in Tallahassee who are going to be in positions of power. I have a very close relationship with Senator Negron. He chaired Health and Human Service Appropriations when I was the vice chair. We've worked together, as was mentioned by Representative Moritas. You work together with people, and I was able to do that as a senator and as the leader of the Senate Democrats, to be able to bring home things for Broward County, things in the area of child welfare and seniors, developmental disabilities. So I think that I will have an opportunity to use those relationships and skills working across the aisle to bring things back to Broward County.
Okay. Jim Norton, the same question to you, sir. What most distinguishes you from your opponent?
Yeah, I want to circle back about the infrastructure sales tax. My opponent is correct. This was not designated or designed only for the city of Weston, because we do, I'm proud of, with my other colleagues, have one of the most fiscally responsible commissions that has a AAA rating, that has millions of dollars in reserve. But when you're thinking as a county commissioner, you have to think about the other cities in your district and the other 1.8 million residents around the county. You can't just think about one city where you live or come from, where you used to be. So I have to think about Lauderhill, Plantation, Tamarack, where I've walked over close to 10,000 homes, and I've seen potholes where people are coming to me, when is my street going to be fixed? That's the reason why I believe that this is needed now. So we don't do something now, it's just going to get worse and worse. What distinguishes me or differentiates me from my opponent are a couple of things. I'm a business person. I have an MBA from Florida International University. I have a BBA from the University of Miami. I have 20 plus years of business experience, 15 years running my own businesses. I've also been entrenched here in Broward County and Broward County initiatives. I was on the board of directors for the Greater Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, where we work with the county commission, we work with the legislature, we work with the workshop, and we work with other groups to bring initiatives like expansion of the port forward, not only in Tallahassee, but up in Washington as well. The other thing too is I come from the cities. I heard about earlier, we need to start creating a ground up type of approach to creating fiscally sound public policy. That's what I bring. I was elected as a vice president for the Broward League of Cities by the leadership, as leader, for 31 other cities to represent them on the Broward League of Cities. So those other elected officials must have seen something in me, some leadership ability in me, to help move the Broward League of Cities forward and work with them and work with the county on initiatives that make Broward, continue to keep Broward moving forward. And that's what I'll continue to do in the future.
Okay. Dan Rich, my next question concerns an action the county commission took this week. They voted to, I believe, for a $500 million expansion of the convention center complex to include this major hotel we've been talking about that has so long eluded this community in becoming an even stronger tourist destination. So the question is, was that the right vote? And reading things in the paper that the city of Fort Lauderdale is concerned this hotel could block out the view of the ocean. There's concerns about the hotel's impact on aesthetics around here. So was it the right vote, and what are you going to do to oversee that project?
Before I mention that, I just do want to say that I know that my opponent is the vice chair of the League of Cities. I do want to say that I have a list here of dozens and dozens of city commissioners and mayors who are endorsing me, including the 3 city commissioners in the city of Weston where he does serve. So there are people that do believe that my experience is important and relevant. And the Sun Sentinel, as a matter of fact, has not come out with their endorsement, but said this morning that I am being endorsed, and it's for my lengthy experience as a legislative leader and knowledge of local issues. And I am very proud of the fact that when I went to Tallahassee, I never forgot my home county or my home district. When you're working on child welfare, when you're working on seniors, you're working on all children and all seniors all around the state of Florida. Now, I do say finally, congratulations to the County Commission for passing this initiative. is long overdue, and I think it will need a lot of oversight, because one of the things that I have heard going around is the county, and meeting with lots of people who do business with the county, is the need for oversight of projects. That projects are late, they are over budget, and it is important that there is transparency here, and that we know that we are getting what we're paying for, and that we're sure that we're not going to have this go on 2 or 3 years longer than it should have, and at a much greater expense. So I think a lot of oversight, but I think that the issue itself is one that is very important in this community. I think you all know, you go to places all around the country. I have, as a person that's been involved with organizations, whether I've gone to conventions all over the country, and it's very important to have a convention hotel, where your convention hall is. So I do applaud the commission for doing that, and look forward to hopefully being there to help provide the oversight that will be needed for it.
Jim, I've got a different question for you. It's been a long time since I covered county government, but I know one thing hasn't, and I spent a lot of long Tuesday days and nights in that building for many years. And so I've got some history, and I know one thing hasn't fundamentally changed, I'll bet, and that is there has to be a close and trusting and positive relationship between the commissioners and the county administrator. Otherwise, everything falls to pieces. So here's the question. Would you have totally, and you've been on a commission, do you totally support the decision Bertha Henry made to make Stacy Ritter head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Broward County, and why?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't know Bertha Henry that well. I've not worked with her on a day-to-day basis, but fundamentally I think she's done a very good job taking over in the interim and then being appointed the county administrator. However, I believe every job at the county level, at that level, that has a direct impact on our economy, that has a direct impact on our safety, that has a direct impact on our children and those most vulnerable, needs to be someone with the highest qualifications and experience in that field. Now, I like Stacy Ritter. I think she's a great person. I think she's done a great job for our community, both in Tallahassee as a county commissioner. I think she's got a great background as I think she's a lawyer by trade, or at least has a law degree. However, she does not have the significant qualifications that even the Sun Sentinel said she didn't have to be the director or CEO of our tourism, one of our chief, most fundamental economic drivers and engines in this community. If we have a problem, we need someone who has that type of experience to handle those problems and to work with the people around. This is an international destination.
Let me just ask.
It's not what it was 20 years ago.
Sorry for the interruption, but and you're going to make a lot of tough decisions every Tuesday up there, but I didn't really hear a definitive yes or no there. Yes, right move by Bertha Henry, or no, not the right move?
I think it was not the right move.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think I explained why it wasn't the right move. You have to have someone who's highly experienced and highly qualified in that type of position, the same way you do with the sheriff, the same way you do with other key components of this county that oversee the main drivers of our economy.
Okay, fair enough. Wish we had more time, but we don't. We're out of time, guys. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.